Prices for new and used cars have been increasing at a rate we have never seen before over the past few years. As you can see, the cost of new car prices in the US has far outpaced the rate of inflation, and the average cost of a new car in the US as of March 2023 is at a record high $48,000. And I found this article online on caredge.com, where it's a very interesting article that shows you all the stats of how prices have gone up over the past 5 years. This chart is pretty interesting, where it compares the change percentage in market share compared to the 5-year price increase. So right away you can see Hyundai is way over here. So they've had the largest increase in market share despite having one of the highest increases in prices. So Hyundai is doing very well. Looks like Subaru has actually lost a little bit of market share, but they've had the fewest increase in price over the past 5 years. Now here you can see the 5-year price increase for certain manufacturers. So Subaru had the lowest price increase in the past 5 years with only just over 25%, followed by Nissan. Then we've got GM. Then we've got Toyota, Honda, Volkswagen, nearly up 40% in their prices in the last 5 years. Then we've got the Ford Motor Company, Hyundai, and then last we've got Stellantis. Almost 50% increase in their prices in the last 5 years, which is pretty remarkable. And what's not working well for Stellantis is, despite having the highest 5-year price increase, their vehicles are sitting on the market the most. What exactly is driving up car prices to go up so quickly over the past few years? Well, we all know supply chain issues as a result of COVID was a driving force behind the higher prices that we're seeing today. But COVID started almost 4 years ago. So why are new car prices still going up so much so quickly now in late 2023? Well, there are a lot of factors in play here. I think one of the factors is that manufacturers have stopped building small, compact cars because profit margins on these type of cars are low. Instead, they're focusing on producing low volume, high sticker price cars because the profits on these type of vehicles are larger. This is being done by all manufacturers across the board. Some of the compact cars that have been discontinued lately include the Chevrolet Bolt, the Honda Insight, the Hyundai Veloster, the Toyota Yaris, and the Ford Focus. Despite their affordability and fuel efficiency, car manufacturers are dropping these vehicles from their production and instead focusing on producing high-end trim models of their largest and most expensive vehicles. For example, the Cadillac Escalade V Series, the Hummer EV, the Ford Raptor R, and Ram TRX. They are marketing these to the masses, and people are willing to pay more than MSRP for these type of vehicles. So having less compact, inexpensive cars on the market is one factor. Another factor considers how the car rental industry was affected by COVID. At the start of COVID, there was a slowdown in travel, and car rental companies struggled. Some even filed for bankruptcy. During COVID, these car rental companies did not acquire new fleets. As a result, less used car rental fleets entered the used car market over the past couple of years, which helped fuel demand for new cars by the public, which in turn helps drive up the price of new cars. I think a third factor in why we have seen large price increases for cars over the past few years is due to a large influx of cash into the economy as a result of some of these government support programs during COVID. So during COVID, the US and Canadian government handed out billions in financial aid to citizens to help pay for their living expenses. However, billions of dollars were lost in fraudulent COVID claims. In the US, it's estimated that 80 billion, or 10% of the 800 billion that was handed out in the Paycheck Protection Plan, also known as PPP, was stolen. So there was a flush of billions of dollars in the economy. Some used these handouts to help finance a new or used car. There were extreme cases where individuals used these COVID benefits in order to acquire high-end luxury vehicles. So billions of cash was all of a sudden in the hands of those that didn't need the support. And what do most people do when they have a large supply of cash on hand? For most people, they would buy expensive assets such as cars, thereby further reducing the supply of cars on the market. And this at a time when there wasn't much car manufacturing happening due to the chip shortages. And so I think the fraudulent COVID benefits in some way did play some role in reducing the supply of cars on the market, and as a result, drove up the demand and prices for new cars as a result. The fourth factor that I want to discuss is inflation, which are at record levels. I think a lot of people, especially politicians, blame COVID for the recent rise in inflation, but I disagree. I think it played a part, but the supply chain issues from COVID is not the main reason for inflation. Inflation has spiked during COVID only in countries where the government was printing billions of cash to support their COVID programs. And when the supply of money goes up, the value of the dollar goes down and prices increase as a result. It's just basic economics. So we had higher inflation during COVID as a result of increased supply of money in the economy, which made the dollar less valuable and as a result contribute to inflation and higher car prices. But that's not the full picture. You have to understand what I call the circle of money. So think of it as a circle. Wealthy people are on top. They spend all the money and it goes down to the consumers. We use the money to pay rent and essentials, so the money goes back up to the wealthy. It's a circle of cash. What happened during COVID is the rich stopped spending. The economy was on hold. People needed money. So the government came in, gives money to the people to spend for their rent and living expenses, etc. Meanwhile, the rich were not spending. So what happened was the rich were making cash because the money was going back up to the rich and they were holding on to it. It wasn't coming down to the consumer because now the government was giving the money to the people. And so what do the rich do with large amounts of cash on hand? They invest in stocks, real estate, and the assets owned by the rich became more valuable and price has gone up for these assets. Meanwhile, people are paying higher for these costs due to inflation. So this is why during COVID, the rich got richer and the middle class got poorer. And since the rich got richer and since they own most of the assets, we're seeing price of these assets, including cars, going up. It's interesting that even the prices for supercars have gone up significantly. If you look at Ferrari, Rolls-Royce, Bentley, Lamborghini dealerships, they have no trouble selling these cars because the rich have gotten richer over COVID and they're able to pay whatever the manufacturer is asking for these vehicles. I've even heard of a couple conspiracy theories to explain the rising price of new cars. One theory is that manufacturers are withholding inventory on purpose to keep supply at dealerships low on purpose in order to artificially drive up prices. I've seen images like this on the internet where you could see thousands of cars just sitting and waiting to be delivered. I even saw a video on YouTube where a person saw a parking lot full of newly built Scat Packs and Hellcats at an abandoned mall. Every car had a window sticker. They were all covered in dust. So why are they just sitting there and not being shipped to dealers? I can't find the video. Maybe it was removed from YouTube. But one way I could refute this theory is that perhaps these vehicles were just sitting there because there was a shortage of rail cars for transport. I don't know. I just don't have enough information. Another theory that I've heard is that the government is doing this on purpose to drive people out of internal combustion cars and into electric cars. And one of the reasons why the government wants people driving electric cars is in order to have more control over the people. So one way they can do this is by new legislation that was proposed by the Biden administration that will force new EVs to be installed with a kill switch, thereby allowing law enforcement to not only track but disable your electric vehicle. I think all of these factors that I mentioned, the car manufacturer's decision to stop producing small and inexpensive cars, the reduced supply of used car rental fleets, the billions in fraudulent COVID claims, and the rise in inflation and increased disparity between the rich and the working class, I think all played a role in why we're seeing record new car prices. I think new car prices are derived from greed. You have to follow the money. Dealers are getting away with markups. Manufacturers want a piece, so to combat, they've raised their prices to get in their share. But in the end, are we to blame the greedy car makers and dealers? I say the ones that are responsible for these record car prices are the consumers, because they are the ones that are buying these cars at 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 over MSRP. As long as people are willing to pay record prices for new cars, the dealers will happily sell them at these prices. So I think this is the consumer's fault. The dealers are just trying to make a buck. And so why are people willing to pay so much for a new car, especially for a car above MSRP? I don't know. If everyone refused to pay above MSRP, I think you would see prices come down really fast, but people are still buying. So where are prices going? I think it's a matter of time before people start realizing that they're overpaying for these cars, and they will choose to hold on to their old cars instead, and people will start defaulting on their new car loans. But until then, people are still going to be buying these cars, and as long as people are willing to buy these new cars at these prices, manufacturers and dealerships have no incentive to lower their prices. That's going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.